is VAT payable on property purchases. And of course, we now know that the rental guarantees were offered, but in fact they were added to the price. So they were included in the price in case somebody asked for a rental guarantee. So these properties were highly inflated in any event. And when the bubble burst, we are now seeing a drop in these prices by about 70% in some cases. And even then, it's difficult to sell them. Now, the banks facilitate all this. In actual fact, we think they caused all this because without funding, none of this would have happened. They funded inexperienced developers who went out and bought or bid the prices of land up, and we've seen some cases where land just went through the roof in Cyprus. They didn't deliver the properties. There were all sorts of problems. And on top of all of that, they managed to convince most of you to borrow in a foreign currency, where they were speculating against your losses, and they made a profit out of that. So the end result, as you know, and you will have experienced one or more of these happenings here. And that is obviously the reason why you are here, I would hope. Otherwise, you are in the wrong venue. So just moving on. You have issues that may have arisen from the sales process itself, from the borrowing, from the legal representation, from the delivery of the property. The property was not delivered, or it was delivered not according to spec. And there are also some people where they're facing a nightmare scenario where they bought a property, they probably paid for it out of their pension or whatever, and then they get a letter stuck on their door by the receiver appointed by the bank, because the developer has gone bankrupt, and the bank is saying, if you want to remain in your property, you have to pay us the money owed by the developer. Otherwise, you'll have to go. Now, this is the state of things in Cyprus, and this could be the ultimate result unless things were done properly when you bought the property, or for that matter, when you reach a settlement with the bank. That would be something that needs to be addressed. Question is, what can you do about it? And many thousands of you thought that there was nothing at all that could be done. It's just one of these things. You do not take on the banks, and you do not take on the developers who have no money to pay you. So who do you claim from? The sales agents, a lot of them have disappeared. The developer, do you have a claim against the developer? The lawyer, the financial advisor, if there was one. Very often the lawyers provided a so-called financial advisor who worked in their office, filled up the application form and took it around to the bank. And the bank, of course, had provided pre-agreed loans on these properties. And because of the problem with title deeds, these banks were actually tied into the development. So ordinarily, you would expect that this is what we've asked the Cypriot government to do. They have not been able to offer any explanation why this is not the way it's done. A developer goes and asks for planning permission to build, let's say, 100 units on a piece of land. There is no requirement for the developer to separate the land into separate title deeds, 100 title deeds, so that whenever one unit is sold, it gets a separate title deed. You have the charge certificate. The bank gets a charge on the property for the right amount of money that they've lent you. You pay it paid off, and you get your title deed. End of story. Oh no, In Cyprus, it's done quite differently. There is no requirement to get separate title deeds. They put that in the contract somewhere to say we promise to deliver title deeds in due course. In due course, very often it's 10 years or more. That means that when the bank has lent the money to the developer, then the developer sells a unit. That sales contract can be registered at the land registry. It's what we would call here a caution, but it ranks after the mortgage that the bank holds over the whole land. This sales contract then gets assigned to the bank, and that is the security that the bank is holding. But of course, the bank is already holding a charge over the whole piece of land, so they can't lose. They're holding both ends effectively. And they are the project bank. They are the bank that financed the whole project. So it is very difficult for you to go to another bank and say, will you lend me the money? Because don't forget that the other bank would need to have the consent and the agreement of the developer and the bank that is holding the charge to be able to give you a loan on that, based on the first bank giving a waiver of its charge in favor of the other bank. So it's very rare that we've seen where a bank has lent on another bank's development. And this tie-in is crucial when we are arguing in court that this was a package. This was what we call a conditional loan agreement. The bank was involved with the developer and it was sold to you as a package. And this is crucial in the whole argument. Not only the argument about when we go to court, but in the argument when we're negotiating. The bank cannot wash its hands clean. It's nothing to do with us. We have Alpha Bank, for example, attending roadshows in this country with the developer and with the lawyer, signing people up. To say that they had nothing to do with it and they did not cross the border is nonsense. So, although many parties are involved, ultimately it is the bank that holds the key in the majority of cases. Because obviously it's the bank that has lent the money, it's the bank that you owe the money to. The developer has taken the money but is not going to give it back, certainly not without a lot of coercion. Whereas the bank wants its money back, so there is some play there. But also the bank poses a threat, because if you stop making repayments, they can sue you, and not only can they sue you for the money you owe them in Cyprus and take the property in Cyprus, which frankly they're not interested, they do not want to repossess that property. They go after the whole amount that you owe them. They get a judgment, and then they come over here, they register that judgment because it's in the EA area. It's treated as if it's the same as if it was taken out in England, and then they can enforce the judgment on you, which would include whatever enforcement action is available, including getting a charging order on your property, or other means, things like attachment of earnings orders, garnishee orders, or whatever. And when you say to them, well, why don't you repossess the property? They say, well, we're not going to bother, because obviously if they try to repossess it, it's going to take them a long time. If you want to reduce your loan liability, then all you have to do is you sell it, you give us the money, that will reduce your liability, and then we can talk about the balance. So you can see how things are working in Cyprus, not quite the same as they would work here. In addition to that, we know that in this country, at least if it's your main home, if the bank has evicted you, and even if there is a remaining balance here, you would find that they apply what is called mortgage debt forgiveness. In other words, they let you off for the rest. They are generally generous about this, although legally they don't have to. In the United States, as you know, a lot of these mortgages are in any event what they call non-recourse mortgages. In other words, once the bank gets the security, the bank cannot chase after you for the balance. Whereas in Europe, generally they are recourse loans; they can come after you. But in the UK, at least, they're quite decent about it. So far, they might get ideas, we don't know. And we know that from the situation in Spain, for example, that Spain refused to apply a mortgage debt forgiveness, and they wanted to come after people in this country. So it's a real threat, and it should not be ignored. So this whole conversation, despite the fact that we have talked about lawyers, we've talked about developers, sales agents, and the like, this whole conversation does invariably end up being all about banks. Because the bank is holding the key, and we've got to look at the bank scene in Cyprus, because we, as your representatives, will not only be looking at the legal aspects of this, but also the commercial aspects. Very often, and this is the ideal situation for you, what we want to do is to settle the matter out of court. It's the least cost and the least risky approach. It's the approach that the banks also prefer. And believe me, provided you can get the right deal out of the bank, this is the best solution in these circumstances. So what is the banking scene in Cyprus, or rather what was the banking scene before the crisis? And as you can see, I've split it into the Greek mainland banks and the Cypriot banks, because some of you may be wondering, how comes that we've got this huge, disproportionate loans by Alpha Bank, and the rest are just, by comparison, quite small. Well, the answer is that Alpha Bank only came into the scene about 10 years ago, and in order to edge, it's a bank from the mainland of Greece, it's not a separate bank. In order to edge its way into the market, it started going into these property loans. It saw an opportunity. It saw an opportunity to sell Swiss francs, and that's what it did. There was another bank that followed suit, which was Laiki. Laiki was a Cypriot bank. I think that at some point it was purchased by Marfin, and this is why you probably see on your bank statements at some point the bank being called Marfin Laiki. Marfin was the Greek bank that bought out Laiki, took it to the cleaners, literally, and then returned it to the Cypriot government, saying it needs an injection of 2 billion. In actual fact, as it's proven, it needed an injection of a lot more. It left the current account balance on the emergency fund of the European Union 9 billion euros, considering that the whole of the Cypriot economy, the GDP, is only 18 billion. You can see in what a bad state this bank was. This is the bank that eventually had to confiscate effectively all the deposits of all their client deposits, and then it went under by being merged with the Bank of Cyprus. So we do have, by comparison, Laiki Bank, where they have also lent a lot of money in Swiss francs. And again, where these banks have found the Swiss francs and why they wanted to lend them so badly to Britons, we can only guess that somehow they either speculated, knowing that the euro was going to lose value against the Swiss franc, or they ended up with a lot of Swiss francs because their Greek clients started converting into Swiss francs, which was the safe currency when, in sort of 2007, the people realized that the euro was not all that safe. We don't know. But this was the banking scene in Cyprus before the crisis. And their attitude towards any grievances that you had was that, it's got nothing to do with us. We lend the money in good faith, and unless we get paid, we're going to go after these clients and enforce any judgment that we get against their assets in England. Now, what is the current vaccine in Cyprus? The main thing we've got to realize is that all the banks in Cyprus now have a serious problem with what may be called toxic loans. A lot of you have made your voices heard, and by simply protesting, the banks and the world realize that the loans that they're showing in their books are not clean. If a clean loan is where the borrower is saying, yep, I want that money and I will be paid, no problem. A toxic one is where the borrower is saying, no way, I'm not paying you at all, or come and get me basically, or I'm only going to pay part of the debt. Now, it turned out that all these banks faced this protest, if you like, from clients. They realized that however much they tried to conceal it, their loans appear to be were very clearly toxic. Alpha Bank, as you know, and clients with Alpha Bank, you will have seen the bank making desperate attempts, offering to give you repayment holidays, interest-free only. We have considered that due to the economic situation, we have decided to give you 12 months repayment free. If you are in arrears, don't worry about it. We will clear up the arrears by adding it to the balance. You can pay that at the end, and now we will mark the account as if it's a regular account. They tried all these artificial means to make their books look clean, and they failed. The more they tried, the more it was clear that these loans were toxic, and that obviously affected their balance sheet. So at some point, they came into the realization that they had to separate their loans into good debts and bad debts. And in order to do that, they took certain steps. But this, they are under a lot of pressure. Alpha Bank in particular is under pressure, all the Greek banks generally. They've been told by the Europeans that they need to reduce the banking sector in Greece by 40 to 50%. And they're being asked to get rid of all their overseas subsidiaries in order to do that. Obviously, Alpha Bank Cyprus is one of them. And you can see if you're a business and you're faced with closure, what do? You put up the sign saying closing down sale. And this is more or less the situation we've got at the moment, where the bank is saying, can we please settle? We will give you a discount for you to either give us a lump sum and pay off, or we will extend the loan so long as it becomes a performing loan. It becomes a regular loan, a good loan. We can put it in the good books, and they're desperate to do that, and they're quite willing to bend over backwards up to a point to do that. Now, how far back they're willing to bend, we are here to test. So just moving on, this is the situation with Alpha Bank, and really you realize that we are now ending up with two main banks that we're dealing with. Alpha Bank that now incorporates Emporiki, because Alpha Bank took over Emporiki in Greece. It was sold to it by Credit Agricole. National Bank of Greece is a minor player. It hasn't really been involved in the Cyprus property market in anywhere near the same way as Emporiki and Alpha Bank. And then the other group on the Cypriot side is Bank of Cyprus, that has acquired Laiki and all its debts. We are obviously now dealing with just Bank of Cyprus because that's the entity, and we're dealing with certain people who have remained from the Laiki administration and are still dealing with your loans if you are with Laiki. Hellenic Bank also, we have a very good relationship with the general manager of the retail division. but it's a small, again, it's a small player. We've only got about 10 Hellenic bank cases. Their documentation and everything, their procedures are far, far better than that of the Greek mainland banks. And we would be finding it difficult to accuse them of reselling. But they are quite sympathetic when it comes to settling matters, as all banks are. They realize that they cannot not just push, they cannot threaten the same way as they used to, because people have successed them. They're not frightened of these threats, and clients are saying, "Well, fine, I'll see you in court." And this is what the banks hate the most. Their business is to lend money. Their business is not to be estate agents repossessing properties or lawyers being in court all day. And we are very much playing on that. So the way each bank is handling this, starting with Alpha Bank, they are offering a substantial part of the foreign currency losses by way of a rebate. National Bank of Greece, as I say, very, very small number of cases, but they are willing to resolve amicably. The Bank of Cyprus, the problem there is that although we've got an excellent relationship with them, they've got no CEO. And until a CEO is appointed and the decision-making structure is in place, they cannot write a single pound off. And that is a problem for us. As I said before, Hellenic is willing to be quite sympathetic to clients if it will resolve these cases. So this poses an opportunity and a threat. The opportunity is obviously that the banks are willing to settle and take off a certain amount to put you in the good book section. In the good debt book, and the threat is that what would happen if you end up with a bad debt book? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Again, this is a question mark that we need to deal with as we progress. But just moving on, where do you stand in this? What if you do nothing? Let's start from that. Any claim will die after 6 years. As I mentioned before, you can't turn up in court and say, "Oh, by the way, 6 years ago, I was misrepresented." I was told things that turned out not to be true. More than 6 years after that, the court will say, "Sorry, you should have said that sooner." So that's the first thing. Not only that, even if you're sued by the bank and they can't sue you long after you can sue them, because their limitation period more or less runs from when they terminate the loan, or at least when a repayment is due and it hasn't been paid. So it could conceivably be suing you, right? But if they're suing you and your time limit has expired, you cannot use the defense of misrepresentation or a breach or whatever. That's gone. So you would find yourself defenseless. As I said, bank may sue even after you no longer can sue defend. And a lot of people have put their hopes in the European avenue and say, "Oh, we take it to Europe and what have you." There is really no practical European route to find justice. Reason for that is that the European Court of Human Rights will only hear cases if you have exhausted local remedies. So it doesn't. All it means is that you've got to go to the first court in Cyprus, the district court. You've got to have gone to the Supreme Court, failed to get justice, and then you go to the European Court of Human Rights to do that. Now, to access the European Court of Justice, which is the other method that can be used, that is there to determine matters. And the only way that you can get the European Court of Justice involved is if the matter goes to the district court, you cannot refer it. But if the matter goes to the Supreme Court can be forced to refer a matter of interpretation of a European regulation to the European Court of Justice. The other alternative is of course, to go through to a complaint against the European Commission and then get them to take it on. And that has been tried, and we have seen that it's not quite working. There are some cases going up, but where they're going to end up, nobody's quite sure. But certainly, I mean, Europe is not something that they are willing to entertain with potentially hundreds of thousands of EU citizens taking that route. They wouldn't exactly want to encourage it. So, very clearly, you need to act. The question is, why act now? Let's look at time limits. 6 years from the date of the cause. So if we're talking about misrepresentation, we would be looking at probably the date of the contract, the date of the sales agreement, and adding 6 years to that. So if it's anything before 2007, it would have expired already. But you can see you're just adding 6 years. If you're 2008, you're then looking at 2014, 2009, 2015, and so on. So what happens if you're already out of time? Do you have a claim? Well, we are lucky in that these cases all come under Cypriot law. That's what it says on the contracts, and this would be the applicable law. Cyprus suspended its limitation laws from 1964 and decided to resurrect them on the 1st of July 2012. So before that, there was no time limit, and you could take your matter to court at any time because it was suspended. When they imposed this on the 1st of July 2012, it applied retrospectively, so people who had a valid claim the day before would have found themselves without a valid claim the day after. So they were obliged to give a year's grace to that, added another 12 months to say, if any of these cases have expired in the meantime, right, we've got another year to bring them to court. And they found that the courts were flooded with claims, right? And the Cypriot Parliament decided to add another 6 months to that. They were requested 12 months, but they refused because, again, Troika is breathing down their necks, saying you have to limit this. You've got far too many cases in court, and you have to be cutting it short effectively. So it looks as though 31st of December is the time limit within this grace period, and you would have seen some of our literature saying, look, you need to file before then, otherwise you may not have a claim. The second reason why you need to act is that the banks want to settle. So don't be left out, and don't forget that if you allow the matter to expire sort of beyond the 30th of June, if you are a pre-2007 case, then the bank would be much less willing to negotiate and offer a settlement, because they realize that even if you claim, you wouldn't have any claim in court. And the third thing why you should act is because you do need, I believe, solid professional advice and representation. You cannot do it alone. Some of you may be quite capable, but it's not just a matter of ability. Very often we are our worst advocates. You go to the bank and you try to negotiate your own loan. I wouldn't do that for myself because it's very difficult to negotiate your own. So a third party finds it much more easier. Why? Because you're not being forced to give an answer there and then. You cannot spoil, you cannot develop a bad relationship because you're always talking about a client. So there's all sorts of reasons that make a representation worthwhile. So what if you negotiate directly with the bank? And I can tell you that Alpha Bank in particular has been writing to a number of clients, not all of them, a number of clients saying, we are willing to offer you X amount. And normally this is about 20% of the current balance. Well, of course, what the current balance includes, we don't know, but that's another matter. Some people have gone for it. Some people have approached me and they said, should I go for it? I said, well, it's obviously up to you. I'm not going to stop you. But now they have taken this offer. They realize, they look at themselves in the mirror and they say, what a fool of me, because I could have got a lot more. So it's going directly is very clearly the cheapest way of doing it, but this is the best way. So these are the questions that you need to think through. Are you getting the maximum? Does it actually cover your own particular case? Because very often compensation on your foreign loan is not enough. There are other issues. Your property may not have been even delivered. Your property may have suffered subsidence. You have been waiting for a golf course to suddenly appear as a mirage from the fields in Tesafani. Who knows? Just being offered 20 or 30% off the current balance and still owing the rest doesn't really help. And finally, if you went and settled with the bank, are you sure that about the documentation that you're signing? Are you sure that you are getting the bank waiver that you need to get, and you are ensuring that the title deeds will be delivered, and you are ensuring that the bank is not going to increase its interest rates in due course, etc., etc. All these things are matters to consider. And then also, even if you settle with the bank, what about claim compensation from other parties? What about the lawyers, for example? So if you need representation, who should represent you? Question. This is why we're here. We're now getting to the crux of the matter. And our argument is that you need more than a group. There are lots of groups that have formulated with lay leaders, and more than a law firm to deal with this. And we at Maxwell Alves do offer a very unique set of skills that we believe offers the best possible potential of getting the matters resolved in the most effective way possible. You have seen the advice from our barristers, very, very much to the point. No waffle there. This is what you should be doing, very positive. We use lawyers in Cyprus to cover the Cypriot law aspects, and we have constantly been advising our clients and potential clients about what they should or should not be doing. And we also operate in several areas to resolve these matters. We're not just content with taking matters to court. We are looking at negotiation, and we are also looking for political solutions. As you may have heard in the press, we are the people who have done quite a lot of lobbying in Cyprus at various ministries. And also in this country, we are the ones who have proposed the refinancing scheme to be brokered by the government of the Manchester's government, and that is something that we are discussing at the moment. So here you are. You've got big banks and developers, and what do you have to offer as an individual? Well, what you cannot do alone, you can do as a member of our group. And what you can see the advantages that we have as a group that we share intelligence and share legal advice and all the other advantages that are on your screen now. And as for the banks, who are, as you know, they've got a lot of muscle. How do you compensate for that? Well, in this country, we've got the banking ombudsman. You can refer your complaint to the banking ombudsman, even if it's against one of the biggest banks. But in Cyprus, there is no such thing. We've been talking about the banking ombudsman for a very long time. But if it's anything like the one ombudsman that they have over public departments, it's teethless. It cannot really order anybody to do anything. It does not have the force of law. So you would be left trying to take over or to take on the bank in a court of law. How much of a chance would you have? It would be indeed David and Goliath, and in this case, David would lose. But what if you were a very large group? And this is what we've done. By having a large group together, the banks understand that they're no longer taking on an individual. You have grouped together, you put your money together, and you've taken over on the banks, and that has paid dividends. And this is really an invitation for you who are not members of that group yet to join it. So there is an opportunity and a dilemma here. If banks are willing to join to negotiate, why talk about litigation at all? There are a number of reasons, as you can see. Very often, the banks would not have been so willing to negotiate if they knew that we did not have the legal muscle to take them on. Now, what do we need to litigate is, first of all, for your own protection. You've got to sue them before they sue you, and we've got certain time limits to observe. We need to establish a claim within these time limits. And it's the evolution. I mean, it's very nice to talk about negotiations, unless your opponents know that if they do not offer enough, the matter will end up in court. They're not going to offer enough, are they? So it is there as a very powerful weapon, a very convincing weapon. But before negotiating, you obviously need to establish what you can get by litigating. And the types of claim that we have put on the table is three areas, non est factum, which effectively means this is not my deed. And that is something very, very difficult to argue. This is cases where you signed a power of attorney, or even we didn't sign a power of attorney. The power of attorney was not attested, but in any event, it was misused by the attorney. They signed you up to a contract that you do not recognize. This is not at all what you agreed. This is not what you gave at all what you gave the go ahead on. And before you jump and say, well, this is me, very, very few cases fall into this category. This is not the same as misrepresentation. This is saying it is not what I agreed at all. Whereas with misrepresentation, it is where you're saying, yes, I signed this document and I knew that it was in Swiss francs, right? Yes, I signed this document and I knew that this property, this was the price for it, if you like. But what I did not know is that all the promises I was made, for example, about the rental income I would be getting, about growth rates, about what would happen in the area, that there would be a tennis academy and a spa resort and a water world and restaurants and shops and the famous golf course, right? All of these things entice me to buy. Yes, it is what I signed, but I signed it through misrepresentations that were made to me. So this is the most of you would fall under that category. And the third category is various breaches, including good faith. Now we say good faith, meaning good faith with the bank. You trust the bank to be acting professionally towards you and not to be speculating towards you. But there are also breaches like the property was not delivered, it wasn't delivered on time, it wasn't delivered in accordance to the specification, or even that the bank they increased, for example, the interest rate margin soon after the loan was taken. So the loan was made particularly attractive until we took it on and we bought the property, and then suddenly everything was turned. Similarly, with misrepresentation by the bank, we've seen situations where Alpha Bank is calculating repayments over 30 years, so they look extremely low, half of what they should be. But they say the term is 15 years. So you are happily, enter into this agreement that you're paying £500 a month, and it's in 15 years. That the loan finishes, not realizing that it's got a little clause that says, and the balance will be paid in the last repayment. The last repayment is the rest of the loan. And your repayment should not have been 500, it should have been £1,000 a month if you were going to repay it in 15 years. But all the calculations were done over 30 years. Now, this is the sort of misrepresentation we're talking about, which is not non-ex factum. In other words, this is what you signed up to, right? But the whole thing was misrepresented to you. It's not as if you didn't know. What you can get in return? Well, complete nullification, obviously, is one option. You can get the loan reduced. If you are awarded some sort of a refund, compensation, whatever, then you can get compensation. So, moving on. Some of the questions that have arisen is where the trial should be held, if there is a trial. Would you get a fair trial in Cyprus, or can you get the matter resolved in this country? And a lot of the Cypriot lawyers you would have seen recently are arguing that the proper place for these cases to be heard is Cyprus. Now, we differ. We have differed very strongly. We have been subject to attacks because of that. We have not responded because we believe that people can work it out for themselves. I do not need to go around in the press telling people that what somebody is saying is complete and that are nonsense. I'm sure that you can work it out for yourselves. So the issue of jurisdiction comes down to the argument that your opponents would put, the bank, for example, or the developer, that the property is in Cyprus, and therefore jurisdiction automatically goes to the country where the property is located. The contracts very clearly state that they are subject to Cypriot law, and very clearly your opponents want cases to be heard in Cyprus. Now, can we change this? The answer is yes. And this is the point that very often is being missed. If the issues that are being tried are to do with the title of the property, what in legal terms is called rights in rem, then yes, the correct jurisdiction would be Cyprus. But these are not issues. Nobody's arguing about the title of the property. The bank may take you to court and ask for possession of the property, which would then have to do with the title. But you're not testing that, right? What your argument is about misrepresentation. It's a different aspect of the law. It's got nothing to do with the title to the property. You are saying there has been a breach of contract, nothing to do with the title of the property. From me, you're saying this is not what I signed up to, nothing to do with the title of the property. right? It's connected. The subject matter is property, but it's not to do with its title. And this is the point that these people are missing. And this is why we believe that when the jurisdiction hearing is heard in London, we are going to win that. But we obviously still need to be cautious and protect you. And I will come to that in a minute. Now, our argument comes under the consumer protection laws within Brussels 1, which is the cross-border agreement that the EU states have between them as to what happens when litigants are in different parts of the EU. It covers cross-border selling. So what happens when an enterprise from one EU member state goes and sells to the consumers of the other member state? So they cross the border. And when we talk about crossing the border, we're not talking about necessarily physically. Even advertising on the internet in the English language and trying to attract English buyers is considered to be enough of crossing the border, trying to appeal to the consumers of another country. And this is perhaps the strongest argument, that if you went into so much trouble to sell to Britons, you employed English-speaking staff, you prepared all these brochures, website, and you came over, you run road shows. Some of these developers even have their own offices in the UK. They geared up to sell to you here. What is it that they fear about any dispute being heard here? After all, they're the ones who made the first move to appeal in this country. So why not have a dispute heard in this country? And the legislation, the EU legislation, is quite sensible. It's saying if it's matters that do not have to do with the title of the property, and on one side you've got the consumer, and on the other side you've got the predator enterprise. It is quite logical that the right jurisdiction is the consumer's own court, because the predator, in any event, has taken the step to go to that country. So let's move on. These are the litigation options. Depending on whether you are a UK consumer or a non-UK consumer, you will determine where your case will be heard. If you're a UK consumer, it will be in England, and otherwise it would have to be Cyprus. Now, what is a UK consumer? And that is very, very important to remember, that you are a lay person. Your profession is not, you're not a huge property investor, a property tycoon. You are UK domiciled. Domicile is not it's not the same as residence, but very often it is. Domicile is where you consider the home to be. If you've got any doubt about your domicile, there is a document in the prospects area that you can look up, and that document I have not prepared. The Inland Revenue is prepared, because they are obviously concerned with domicility when it comes to tax matters. And that will tell you if you've got doubt. But most of you, I expect, are UK domiciled. And most importantly, that your opponent has pursued directly or indirectly his business in the UK. So even if the developer did not come to the UK or didn't have a website that appealed to UK consumers, if he used an agent who did, and most of you have been approached by agents in this country, or even arriving in Cyprus in the hotel lobby. The whole idea was appealing to the UK consumer. If they did cross the border in this way, then the jurisdiction, we are advised by our barristers, would be England. So another bit of nonsense that we heard is that if you sue here and you win, you are going to find it very difficult to enforce in Cyprus. Now, that is absolutely not true. The same difficulty you would have in enforcing in Cyprus would be exactly the same whether the judgment was obtained in Cyprus or in England. Enforcement, yes, we all have problems from time to time where you've got a judgment debt and you're trying to get the money from the debtor, and he disappears, and you're sending around the bailiffs, and he doesn't have enough furniture to levy execution. These are typical problems of enforcement, but they've got nothing to do with where the judgment was obtained, right? It's got to do with whether the person you have sued has got any means to pay you. That's something different. What is making it difficult for you to pay you? So under Brussels 1, judgment obtained anywhere in the EU, or I should more correctly say the EEA, the European Economic Area, it has the same validity as in any other EU or EEA state, except Denmark. And we have seen it happening in the reverse direction, where a Cypriot bank has taken judgment in Cyprus. All they have to do is bring it over here, register it, and what's your uncle? It applies. It applies just, it's a CCJ on the record. And they can enforce it. They can go to court and say, we want attachment of earning disorder or a charge or whatever. Now, the main aim is to stop the bank from enforcing in the UK, obviously. So, if we get judgment in the UK against the bank, then it's not an issue even of enforcing it, because they will not be able to claim that money from you in this country. They can that judgment would be valid. It would be recognized in the Cypriot court in any event. But what I'm saying from the practical point of view, you have already stopped them in their tracks by them not being able to claim that money from you here. This is the final point that I made before, that any difficulty in enforcing against the developer would be the same whether the judgment was obtained in the UK or in Cyprus. So again, there has been some nonsense in the property press about difficulties in enforcing the judgment obtained in this country, and this is a lot of nonsense. What about costs? Now, collective actions, this is what we've got here in Cyprus. They do not have collective actions. They can join an action once they have started and use them as test cases, but they do not have the concept of collective actions like we have here, where the costs are shared throughout. You need to sue individually. We have a no-win, no-fee arrangement, particularly in our case. And we also have AT insurance, which effectively it's cover in the event that you lose a court case. You would end up having to pay the other side's costs, which could be substantial if it's a bank. But if you obtained AT insurance, which is something that we would invite you to do if you went to pursue litigation, then those costs would be covered by the insurer if you lost. So again, this is something that is not available in Cyprus, and I have checked. So all of these things make England a very attractive venue. The quality of representation, for example, again comparing, should I be suing here or should I be suing in Cyprus? We've got the two-tier system. We have there are no language barriers. Can you imagine if you were suing in Cyprus, you've got a witness speaking in Greek, and you are relying on an interpreter to tell you what the witness is saying. In the meantime, half of the points you wanted to pick up and tell your lawyer have gone, because by the time your interpreter has told you the gist of it, you'll have missed the rest of it. You would definitely be at a disadvantage from the language barriers alone. And we have a world-renowned system of justice. I mean, a lot of commercial agreements have got nothing whatsoever to do with England. It's probably one with between Korea and Australia or whatever. they often put down, English law and English jurisdiction, because they know that this is the most efficient, fairest system in the world. So why, since we are in this country, why would we want to shy away from it? You would have seen in the advice given by the barristers, again, what would happen if you were sued in Cyprus. We would try to avoid it like the plague, and we are proud to say that nobody got sued while they were represented by us. We have got a good relationship with the opponents, and so far we've managed successfully to avoid it. Now, obviously, if you come to us after you've been sued, we would use our good officers to get this suspended. But if the worst comes to the worst, the advice from the barristers is that you should not allow a default judgment to be entered against you. You should challenge the jurisdiction. And if you're challenging the jurisdiction and they still proceed to hear the case and to obtain judgment in Cyprus, we would then be able to frustrate the process in the UK. But if you did not challenge the jurisdiction, then we wouldn't be able to do anything. The claim again that we've made against Alpha Bank, Alpha Bank is the only bank that we have so far made a legal claim against. The other banks we've got a dialogue with, and they've given us no reason to sue them so far. This is the claim filed with Alpha Bank against Alpha Bank and 24 other developers on the 27th of June. Since then, we have added to that 2 more claims, and we're working on a third. So there's a 4th wave being prepared as we speak. And if you are with Alpha Bank, what I'm going to give you, may wish to join it. The new waves will be joined to the main claim, so that the main claim becomes bigger and bigger, and therefore the costs are shared amongst many of you. And there are other actions to follow, not only against banks, but against sales agents, against lawyers, and what have you. So we are trying to cover every aspect of this and give you the very best that can be delivered. The question is, does legal action freeze everything? If you're taking legal action in England, gives you the upper hand, certainly, but it does not stop your opponent from suing you in Cyprus. Because their argument would be, this is, yes, there is an action that's been filed in England, but we're challenging the jurisdiction. It is outside the jurisdiction. Therefore, this case should be heard by a Cypriot court, and it should not be thrown out because this is the correct jurisdiction. And you may find that by the time you do anything in this country, they have already proceeded to take an action against you in Cyprus. So the answer is that yes, the argument that there is a dispute elsewhere pending can be put there, but how far the Cypriot court would accept that would be is doubtful. However, if you were to also sue in Cyprus, which is what we recommend to clients who have sued in this country and are in arrears, then you would be controlling both ends, because then the argument that there's a jurisdiction challenge would not be valid, saying we have sued you in this country as well, and if you want to claim, you would need to counterclaim on our claim, but we are controlling the claim. So if you are in arrears, for example, they would find it very difficult to enforce that, because we are controlling the claim. They would be applying to the court to bring it forward and what have you, but we would just be playing around. So, and this is what we are doing on behalf of our clients. We're tying all ends, and we do not leave any loose ends, as has been known to happen with other lawyers. So we've also talked about obviously litigation and the need for litigation. So can it still be resolved out of court? The answer is yes. And the best resolution you're going to have is if you have large numbers. The larger the group, the more your opponents will need to deal with it. They recognize that if they do not solve it with such a large group, then they would have a lot of trouble in their hands in court. So this is the disunity paradox. If you're not included within the group, then you cannot share in its success. Things do not apply retrospectively. A lot of people have approached me and said, but hold on a minute, why don't we just wait for all these cases to be heard in court? If you win them, then they will apply to us. No, they won't. If you're out of time, you're out of time. You cannot even take your claim to court. That's the whole point. So unless you have already filed, then you would not be able to benefit from any victory that comes out of court. And similarly, if we negotiate a good settlement, we're negotiating a good settlement for our named clients. We're not negotiating a settlement for our future clients or for people who are not even clients at all. And by all means, try it. Go to the bank by yourself and see whether they would offer you the same deal. Interesting. Now, the other side of the coin, of course, is that if you do not join us, we may not succeed. Why? Because we need the numbers. The more people that join us, the more the group strengthens. So it is a matter of very much. It's an invitation for you to join the group so that you can benefit and the rest of the group can benefit. It's a win-win situation. What are your options if you decide to join us? Well, basically, we've categorized cases into 7 groups or 7 options, if you like, depending on where you are. You may opt for negotiations only. You do not want any litigations involved, or the negotiations with the possibility of litigation, the threat of litigation, if you like. If you're a UK consumer, option 3, action in England. If you're a non-UK consumer, option 4, action in Cyprus. If you have already been sued in Cyprus, it would be option 5. If we're talking about other types of claims which do not involve the bank, some of you have partnered with management developers, and you don't even have a loan, for example, with the bank. And those are very difficult to get because there is no bank with deep pockets that we can go after, if you know what I mean. And then option 7 is the developer receiverships that we mentioned earlier on. And which option you go for depends on where you are. As you can see, the top layer, which is the whether you're a UK consumer or a different sorry, let me just close this down a minute. Yeah, whether you're a UK consumer, whether you're in arrears, all of these things make a difference. If you're talking about mis-selling, if you're talking about a different type of dispute, then your options would fall into sort of option 6, option 7. And you can see how this works. And we're obviously here to advise you which option, which stream you would fall into, depending on your category. What are the costs involved? Well, in simple terms, we charge an initial fixed fee of £1,500, £1,250 plus VAT. We also cap our general disbursements to £200. Things like traveling expenses and photocopying and what have you. Again, that is to make sure that you know that you're not going to get lumbered with a huge bill because I've decided to fly to Cyprus in business class and stay at the Four Seasons. On the contrary, because it's capped, I need to make sure that all the expenses are very kept low. Otherwise, they come out of my pocket. And we've got a no-win, no-fee arrangement. So the whole idea is that we are trying to be extremely fair. And under this no-win, no-fee arrangement, this is what we would call a success fee. This is what you pay if you only pay if we win. We manage to save money for you. There's a net gain for you. And if you don't, we don't get anything from that. And we also have a success fee only arrangement. So if you do not want to pay the initial fixed fee, you prefer not to pay that, and just rely totally on if we win, you pay us. If we lose, we don't. Then that arrangement is also there. Obviously, the success fee rate is higher than the other rate, but the options are actually there, and I'm sure that you've got this information. The information that we've sent you. I'm sorry that my throat's going a bit dry, but we are gradually coming to the end of this. So if we do manage to negotiate successfully, and this is what we aim to do, then these are the costs involved: the fixed fee plus the success fee, or the success fee only. Now, what are the net gain calculations and how does it work out? Well, on the basis of the fixed fee plus success fee option, if we look at example 1, let's say that your net gain is 90,000 euros. We've managed to wipe off 90,000 euros from the amount you owe to the bank. That would be 76,000 in sterling. On the first 50,000, we will get 10%, which is £5,000. On the next 26,000, we would get £1,839, and you would add to that VAT, which would take you to £8,207. Now, this is you do not have to pay that immediately. We would spread that over 36 interest-free monthly installments, so that as you benefit from the reduction from the bank, you can gradually pay us, and then everybody is squared up. You saved £76,000, you paid us 8,000, and the rest is your net gain. Now, people have asked, well, what if I'm allowed to walk away? Would you then consider the whole of the balance to be the net gain? And the answer is no. This is what examples 2 and 3 cover. The way it then works is that we take into consideration the value of the property, because what we have actually saved you is the negative equity, and that's what it's calculated on. Now, would there be additional costs? Additional costs would only be involved if litigation is involved. If we have to sue, this is what with your agreement, and this is the whole idea that this is the basic fee, this is the basic arrangement, and then everything else comes on top of that by agreement, and then it's our job to try to control this as much as possible. Now, if you're claiming in England, which would normally be what we call option 3, you're joining the collective action here. To join that action would cost you £300. And if you're also claiming, putting a claim in Cyprus, which is what we are recommending to you do, particularly if you're in arrears, then it would cost you further £1,100, and that includes VAT. In addition to that, any specific disbursements would be charged to you as we, but we would agree with you that beforehand, depending on what needs to be done. Yeah. The question is, why spend this money? As you can see, the reasons are to establish your claim, to provide a level playing field for negotiations, and to protect you against your opponents. They may come after you unless you go after them. And this is what covers effectively option 3. But I repeat that this is only if litigation is involved, and very often it is not. It depends on your circumstances. If you are in arrears, for example, you are benefiting, in inverted commas, from the fact that you're not paying anyway. So if you're going to spend that sort of money, it's almost like an insurance policy. You're spending it to file your claim, to ensure that it's there. Obviously, the truth of the matter is that we are also coming up against this deadline on the 31st of December. So a lot of people are forced into litigation, particularly if we do not bring a negotiated settlement in pretty quickly. And we're working on that, obviously. I'm continuing with some of the examples without wishing to bore you. This would be option 4, where you're not spending any in England, but you are filing in Cyprus for the same reasons as we've covered before. Option 5, we are saying if we are going to defend you in Cyprus or to challenge the jurisdiction in Cyprus, what you would have to pay is whatever we agree the local representative wants to represent you. And we would try to keep that to the minimum using our group purchasing power, if you like. But before you would commit, you would know. This is the whole point, that we are managing any disbursements and we do not spend anything unless you agree. So this would be option 5. And then moving on with option 6 and 7, again, we would handle them on and pass on to you whatever disbursements are there, and they need to be agreed with you beforehand. So the next slide I'm going to show you, because a lot of people would ask us, would say, well, okay, you've taken us through all this. Let's say that the worst comes to the worst, and not only have we fined, but we now actually have to go to trial. How much will it cost? Well, this is quite a distance away, and but I don't want to shy away from it and say, well, leave it. You do need to have an idea. These figures may change, hopefully downwards. So we took the what we think is the worst case scenario, and we're saying, well, let's look at the chart. We are saying that you would have paid us an initial fee of £1,500 unless you have opted for the success fee only arrangement. You would have paid us a filing fee of £300 for filing in England. You would have paid us £1,100 for filing in Cyprus. You would be paying cap general disbursements of £200. You would be paying. We would be asking you for a litigation fee if the matter, if we need to prepare the case for trial. This is a fixed fee, again, without charging a time cost, which would cost to run into thousands. And we've estimated that the AT insurance would probably cost you £1,800. This is the insurance cover in case you lose. We also estimate that on the basis of having 130 claims on the claim form, so that you've got 130 people sharing, if you like, the legal bill would come to the barrister's bill, if you like, would come to £5,000 for each of you. Total £1,100. Sorry, £11,000, £11,100. Now, this is what we have. We've got as option 3 people who have decided, instructed us to sue in England, and so far we have only called items 1 and 3, the £1,500 initial fee filing the claim £300 and filing in Cyprus a further £1,100. We haven't even raised the invoices for the capped general disbursements, although we will be doing that pretty soon. The rest, 5, 6, and 7, have not come into it, and they are unlikely to come into it for probably another year now, because we've managed to agree with a consent order about proceeding with an illegal action after the jurisdiction hearing, the outcome of the jurisdiction hearing, which there is one in June 2014, is heard. So depending on the outcome of that, we would then proceed. And obviously, if in the meantime we reach a negotiated settlement, then that would be it. The cost would have stopped there. So looking at the worst case scenario, if you win your case, you would end up not having to commit the unrecoverable costs would be the filing a claim in Cyprus, £1,100, the litigation fee that we're charging here. Possibly, I think that you may be able to recover that, and then the AT insurance is unrecoverable because it's a risk that you wanted to cover. That was an option that you cover. The rest you should be able to get from your opponents if you win. And we're saying here that this would give you a balance of 7,000 to pay plus up to 12% on your net gain. Now, moving on to the worst case scenario, if we reach an out of court settlement. So I'm giving all these estimates. A lot of you would say, well, what does this have to do with us at this point in time? The answer is nothing. But some of you may say, well, you didn't tell us. So we're trying to cover every aspect so that you're fully informed. And you know that the information is available and is readily available to you. So these are the, as you can see, this is the worst case scenario situation. And then if we go to the best case scenario where we've reached an out of court settlement without litigation. As you can see, most of these costs have disappeared, and all this cost you is the £1,500 that you paid us initially, plus the success fee, or the success fee only if you have not paid us an initial fee. So just moving on. What we would be asking you to sign in the bundle of papers that we've sent you, which is the letter of engagement, is a conditional fee agreement. And the conditional fee agreement basically covers what happens if we win. If we lose, we get nothing. If we win, we get the percentages that we talked about. One thing that this agreement does have, and I need to explain to you, again, let me just open this icon, as you can see here. You are being asked to you need to put your name here, but it says to be declined before you sign this, obviously date it correctly, and then it explains to you how this would actually work. And we talked about the success fee being 10%. But if the matter is in litigation, what we've done is we're not allowed to charge you a success fee as such. We are obliged under the rules to charge you time cost. So that would mean that you may end up with a runaway bill, and you wouldn't want that. So what we've done is this. We've said, and this is what we're saying under the arrangements, if the matter is in litigation, that if we would be charging you time cost, and we would cap the time cost to what would have been the success fee if the matter was not contentious. In other words, let's say that, as we've seen in the previous example, the success fee that you have to pay is £7,000. We run up a bill on a time cost basis of £10,000. You only pay 7. We run up a bill of £5,000 on a time cost basis. You only pay 5. So can't be fairer than that. That's the bottom line. This only applies to contentious matters, in other words, matters that have gone into litigation. If you are a negotiation only client where there has been no filing or anything like that, then it's the original arrangement, which is the fixed fee plus the success fee, or the success fee only arrangement. Now, the other thing that I point out to you on this agreement, because at some point we will be saying, you would be signing and saying immediately before you sign this agreement, we verbally explain to you the effect of this agreement, and in particular the following: the circumstances in which you may be liable to pay our disbursements and charges. So this is what we are explaining, that it's a conditional fee agreement. You would only pay if we win, or there is another possibility. That is, if you deny us the opportunity to finish the job. In other words, you may decide at some point to say, I'm sorry, but I'm walking away. Then we would be charging you a minimum of £2,000, what we call the early termination fee. Because obviously we spent time in your case in anticipation of winning. And you're saying, well, I can't be bothered to wait. I'm going to walk away. Or, cleverer still, you might say, you're getting very close to an agreement with your opponent, right? I'm going to terminate you now so that you do not get the success fee, right? There we're saying, no, you would still have to pay us the success fee, even if you have terminated us early. So these clauses, as you can see, are not designed to trick you, is to stop you from tricking us or denying us the opportunity to earn what we have arranged. Because, as you can imagine, and as you know from other lawyers, the time cost bill can be quite enormous. And if we were to lose the case, then you would find that it could be quite devastating for us. We would have done an enormous amount of work, and we would have got nothing in return. So what we cannot accept is that on top of that, we've done all the work, we were going to succeed, and you denied us that opportunity. So this is what this is all about. And I'm going to go back to the original. Yes, that's great. So let's move on now. What would affect costs? Again, we're talking about litigation, and hopefully we're not there. A negotiated settlement is obviously one of them. We by limiting litigation costs by taking on work ourselves that we could have put out to barristers, for example, preparing things in a way that it would cost less for you. So trying to do as much work in-house. But the most important thing is numbers, which is taking us right back to what I said before. We want you to join us, and we would benefit, or the other group members will benefit every time one of you actually joins. So this is coming to an end. Action points. If you have not already joined, join now. Encourage others to do the same, and stay close for concerted action. Thank you very much. I'm going to take questions now. Let me see if there are any questions that have been posted. Otherwise, I will try to open up the lines so that you can speak. Okay, I cannot see any questions for me. Can see that you have been talking amongst yourselves a lot. Or I hope that you have remembered to put in front a question for George. None of you have. So what I'm going to do now is see whether we can open the lines. Can I remind you on how to actually mute your microphone, which is, I think it is slide here. Yep. Excuse me. I'm trying to get there. This is how to mute your microphone. You click the telephone icon, you use the drop down, and you then click the microphone, which will mute it. Somebody has raised a question for me, and I will take that question now. Many of us have committed monies with other solicitors and got nowhere. What assurances do you give us? Okay, this is, you are asking for an assurance about what? About success, about not taking any more money from you. I think, you know, what we've shown in terms of costs, this is it. You know, we are quite upfront. You've got the two options. So you do have the option to join without committing any money. So I take it that this is not what you're asking for, because you already have that option there. What assurances can I give you about success? Well, let's put it that way. If you were to join on a success fee only basis, then that would mean that if we do not succeed, we do not get anything. Now, can we be fairer than that? I don't know. I mean, I cannot tell you what the outcome would be, because there's only two ways of getting any settlement out of this. The first one is for your opponent to agree, to consent. The second one is for your opponent to be ordered. Now, we are staking quite a lot on getting your opponent to consent. If they do not consent, then you need to commit money to allow us to take him to court in order for him to be ordered to settle, or to be ordered to pay up or whatever. So I don't know what more I can give you. I'm going to open up the lines in a minute, and if you want to add to that or to elaborate, I'll be glad to elaborate further. I don't want to sound as if I'm shying away from the problem, because I don't. Can you explain about the time limitation again? If I sign my sales agreement before 2008, am I now time barred? The answer is no. You're not time barred because of this peculiarity with the Cypriot law that allows us to still claim up to the 31st of December 2013. So even if you were 2006, 2003, it's expired, but they will allow you to bring it to court up to the 31st of December. I hope that's clear, Arvinder. Can we get a larger group discount if our group joins you? No. It's a very straight no, for one very simple reason, that we need to be fair to everyone. I do not take on clients who are effectively late joiners at less fees than everyone else. It would be extremely unfair. Can you imagine if I was to do that to you, where you paid me, £1,500, and then I take somebody else on for £1,000. You've been loyal to me for months, and then I mean, this is high street stuff. Or is it credit cards and banks that do that? Telephone companies, we don't, I'm afraid. We are very, very straight with our dealings, and I hope that you respect that. How long does the negotiation settlement take? It depends. I mean, the Alpha Bank wanted this matter settled very quickly, but their attitude was, well, we give you so much off. We said, no, we want figures from you, and they are working on these figures now. We also have a template where we recalculate everything so that we can see exactly what the differences are. So it may take from the moment we get the figures in, it may take a couple of months, I guess, to get the figures, and we start talking and start settling matters with Alpha Bank. With Bank of Cyprus, or the other major group, a lot also depends. It's the same, more or less the same procedure, but we hope that by then they also have a decision maker in place. Can we get a larger group? If we have paid off the loan in Cyprus by remortgaging out the UK property, will we have a case to pursue? Yes, I mean this is quite possible. You do have a case. It does depend on what on any commitments you have done. Obviously, they're not going to be very happy to give money back. It's not the same as if you already owe them money and you say, well, you're not getting it unless you give me a discount. So in terms of getting money back by negotiation, it's going to be a bit difficult. And these are the circumstances where I recommend that you join us on a success fee only basis, because that way you would not, again, you can see, where I do not feel 100% confident. I'd rather take the risk, and it's going to be my time wasted if we get nowhere, than to take your money and then have to explain why we failed. I cannot be sure that by negotiation we can persuade the bank to give any money back. We may be able to do it through the group action, where they feel, well, if we don't settle these cases as well, and they're not going to get a deal, maybe, I don't know. But failing that, we may have to show that costs a lot of money, and there are certain risks involved which you obviously need to take into account. So I would recommend, do not give up, but do join with a success fee only arrangement. Yes, have any of your current clients received nullification or any substantial reduction either via negotiation or litigation? The answer is yes. We haven't had any nullifications as such, where the bank has made any admissions and said, we consider this contract as null and void. But we have settled matters by negotiation, either because the client had a lump sum to offer, or because we managed to convince the bank that they were better off letting this borrower off in consideration for certain services that we have provided. Typical example would be where we said, we demonstrated to the bank that the client really had no money, and that didn't matter how much they pushed, they were not going to get any money out of this particular client. We also convinced the developer of the same thing. The developer invariably has given a guarantee to the bank, so the developer will become liable for, let's say, the whole 200,000, if that what the loan was. So we say to the developer, look, if we were to arrange for you to take the property back for, let's say, 150,000, when it's only worth 100, for example, that would actually save you 50,000. Would you agree to that? They say, yep, it seems to be a good deal. When we went back to the bank and we said the same thing to the bank, we said, look, owes you 200,000, but we can arrange for the property to go back to the developer for 150. So you're basically taking on a loss of only 50. Will you settle for that? Now you might say, well, why wouldn't the bank just claim the money from the developer? Well, because they would then have a fight in their hands. So all in all, you get a settlement in this way. And this is the sort of thing we do. If it was as simple as just going to the bank and banging our fist on the table and say we want a bigger discount, we wouldn't get very far. We know what we're doing. I hope that we can convince you of that. And that's why we are also so confident to take on cases on a success fee only basis. How quickly will things happen? We have been in another group and don't seem to be any further forward than we were when we joined over a year ago. Susan, in fairness to the other group as well, the banks were not willing to settle them. Now they are. So I think that now it's quite the opposite. It's the banks that want a quick settlement, and we're the ones that are saying, well, we're stretching it a little bit, both for political reasons, in other words, trying to get a better deal out of them, but also because of logistically, there's only so much that can be done in terms of, we need information to come through. And once we have this information through, we need to do a lot of calculations in order to start talking to them about the case. Can a dual claim be made for both misrepresentation and breach of contract? Yes, of course. You can. That's part of. That's the provision